All right. Well, Kamala Harris. She is going to be the Democratic, as of right now anyway, she's going to be the Democratic nominee for president. Joe Biden drops out, and now we get Kamala Harris. Oh boy. Um, old cackling Kamala. I'm I'm not sure. I guess this is the only path that the Democrats have to go as far as this, because if you don't let Kamala take the ticket and you want to bring in somebody else, wouldn't they have to do another primary voting to see who the people want? And I understand that there's representatives that the people have voted in, and they're supposed to be putting forth the best candidate that they think. And since the voters voted them in, technically it's still the voters' choice. I don't agree with it. I know that you have to have so many of the delegates voted, and to get the next nominee in there. But Harris is she's getting some backers with her. And I don't know about a VP pick, but Shapiro's been floated around. Um, I did see that Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan, she said that she wouldn't accept the VP ticket. I don't know if that would be true or not. I've seen the video where she said that she wouldn't do it, but who knows when you're actually offered a VP position? I mean, who would turn it down? Honestly, I mean, I think Gretchen's a little power hungry myself. Uh, I don't know, but we can find out. We'll see. I mean, it's all gonna come to fruition here shortly. But let's take a look at a couple of videos here, and we'll we'll see what other people are saying. And whew, it's getting crazy. I'm telling you what. Let's see. Let's check this out.
Right back to our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce. And Mary, we are following these rapidly moving developments. First, we had the letter from the president of the United States saying that he was going to step aside in this race. Now we are seeing yet another post on social media from President Biden, because the big question after the president announced that he was going to step aside in this race was who exactly was going to step in. Mary Bruce, it seems like the president has an answer to that question on who he's endorsing here.
Rachel, the president, in a tweet just announcing that he is offering his full support and endorsement for Kamala Harris to be the nominee of the party. I want to read this full.
I'm just gonna now keep in mind with that. It's not, as far as I understood it. I've heard from a few different sources that Biden wasn't gonna endorse Kamala, and then it was 30 minutes to an hour. Maybe it was a little longer than that, but now all of a sudden he's endorsing her for the presidential nomination. So I don't know. That seems a little sketchy to me too, but I could be wrong. Who knows?
Message from him. He says, "My fellow Democrats, I've decided not to accept the nomination to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term." He says, "My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made." He says, "Today I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats," he says, "it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this."
Kamala Harris hasn't done anything. She was put in charge of the border and then lied about going down there. She never even went. And it was a disaster. Biden specifically put her in charge of the border, and she did nothing to prevent what happened down there. What are we up to? 7 million border crossings that we know of? And we're spending, what is it, 150? No, I could be wrong on that number. I'm pretty sure it's around $150 billion a year on illegal immigrants and providing for them instead of providing for the U.S. people. I could be wrong on that number. I don't think I am, though.
The president has always made clear, Rachel, that he believes that Kamala Harris has what it takes to be president. He wouldn't have chosen her to be vice president if he didn't. But we have seen sort of an interesting change in the way he's talked about Kamala Harris, even in the last 2 weeks. It was just 5 days ago, I think. He was out in Las Vegas doing a big event before the NAACP. And he took on Trump, especially in the way that Trump has been reaching out to black voters. And he took on the way that Trump had once used the phrase, black jobs. And the president made this quip, this joke, not joke. He was fired back at Trump saying, I know what a black job is. It is vice president. And he said, point
he's
blank,
trying to take
Kamala
on black
Harris
voters for the Democratic Party because he's losing them a lot. A lot of them are going over to the Republican Party. That's why he's trying to cater to them again.
Likely was thinking about what would happen if we got to this point where he had finally decided, Joe Biden decided that he needed to step aside and step out of this race. And now he is throwing his full weight and support behind Kamala Harris. It sends a huge message, especially to this party about where we are going now, especially with such little time left in this race.
Yes, and Mary, it's not just what the president has been saying. It's also what Vice President Kamala Harris has been doing. We saw her in the days after that event.
That's a good point, too. There's very, very little time left before the election comes around. You're going to have early voting coming up in mid-September, I think it is. And I think there was supposed to be another debate between Donald Trump and Biden, like right before the early mail-in voting was supposed to start taking place. There's almost no time for Kamala to campaign as the president, as the new nominee, let alone she's going to have to pick a VP in the next week. Shorter than that, I mean, she should have already done it at this point. She should be vetting some people and finding out who she wants to go with her. But that'll probably come out this week, I'm sure.
And really start to concentrate on rallying black voters. We know they are the bedrock of the Democratic base. What have you seen in the days following that debate, as well as the vice president really trying to concentrate in on the core of the Democratic base?
Rachel, she has been out there working the trail hard. She has been crisscrossing this country, and she has been, especially as you noted, really.
Where has she been? Where? I haven't seen her anywhere. And I watch the news all the time. I have not seen one thing about Kamala Harris campaigning anywhere for Joe Biden's next presidential campaign. I haven't seen it. Somebody let me know.
Trying to rally those key constituencies where so much of this election is going to come down to. The Biden-Harris ticket has been very well aware that, especially among black voters, especially young black men, they are seeing signs in the polls that the support is slipping. She has been out there, trying to get their message across to the voters who will really decide this race in November. But this entire time, Rachel, she has been a very loyal soldier. She has been adamant that they were still in this to win it. She has shown zero daylight between her and the president, as the president has been.
She's shown zero. Okay, whatever. But what about the fact that everybody knows that he's been not 100%? I feel bad for the guy. I shame on his wife for putting him through all this crap for so long. But she's the vice president. She knows what his mental state is like. She knows what his health is like. Shame on her for keeping him in it too. She's been lying to everybody else, saying that, oh, Biden's just fine. He doesn't have any health issues. I don't believe it. Do you? I sure don't. So I think she's been lying her entire political career. So nothing's changed there, I guess.
And, clearly taking all of this in and trying to make this decision, Vice President Harris now catapulted to the top of the ticket. It is a remarkable, historic turn of events in the political history of this country.
All right. I see. It's crazy how
your donation will help us.
Crazy.
Your donation will help us to open more field offices.
It's crazy that she's been catapulted forward, and that the fact that when she was running against Joe Biden, she had I'm pretty sure it was less than 1% of the vote in the primary, and she was one of the first ones to drop out before Joe Biden got the nomination back when he was running against Trump. It's insane to me that she even got the vice presidency when she did, when she had less than 1% of the vote back in the primary back in 2020. It's insane to me. I don't know how she even picked up the vice presidency, other than the fact that it clicked all those DEI boxes, every single one of them. That's the only reason why she got the vice presidency. And she's not. I personally don't think that she's qualified for anything. So I don't know. Let's take a look at this other video, and then this is just. I wanted to go over this just because it's going to show some poll numbers on what might the election look like as far as right now if it was held. This is going to go over a couple things as far as the polls and the percentages of Biden versus Kamala against Donald Trump.
The same polls that produced this average since the debate in the Biden-Trump race, what do they show when Harris is substituted in? A difference, but it's a difference of a point. The Biden at 45, Harris in these same polls, an average 46%, Trump 47% in both of them. So you look at this, and Kamala Harris is not entering at least.
It's hard to believe that Kamala only has
obvious strength over Joe Biden.
She's got a percent higher than Joe Biden.
Weakness compared to
and
Joe Biden.
Really,
those numbers are
his approval
pretty
ratings
close to the same
in
terms of a starting point for Harris. Also,
I can't imagine Kamala's
impression
any better.
of these folks. So Joe Biden.
Maybe it is. I haven't looked at the approval rating for Kamala.
Do you have a favorable, unfavorable view? Biden 36, 57. Been seeing numbers like this for a long time with him. Obviously, these are very perilous numbers. What are they for Kamala Harris? Average from the same set of polls. A little bit better.
38%.
36 goes up to 38. 57 comes down to 52. But, take a step back. Those are not.
So she's a little bit better than Biden, but only because she's
on that basic.
Nobody ever sees her. That's why she's a vice president that did nothing this last 4 years. Nothing.
Not strong numbers. A tick, though, above where both Biden and Harris are. Again, this is the starting point for Kamala Harris. The big question here is going to be what happens in the next week, the next 2 weeks, as this sort of rollout of Kamala Harris as a presidential candidate begins. Does she get a second look from some voters? Do these numbers improve? Is there movement in the horse race? Is there a backlash? I think you have to ask as well. Look, Kamala Harris will be the first, if she is nominated, the first candidate from either party since 1968 to be the nominee without contesting in name the presidential primaries. Is there any kind of a backlash to that, to how all of this went down? That's another question. If it's Harris or whoever it is as the Democratic nominee, this is the battleground, of course, they'd be walking into. If it's Harris.
Okay, I want this map. Let me see if he gets his hand out of the way. Okay, here. This map, he's got nothing highlighted as far as now. Michigan, I think Michigan could go red. I think Nevada's going to go red for sure. California, that's not going to happen for Republicans. But Georgia's definitely going to be red. Maine's going to go red. Illinois might go. I've seen a lot of different things where everything except for California, the West Coast, and a bunch of the Northeast is blue. But that's to be expected. But I've seen where Trump has it so easily, either whether it was Kamala or Joe Biden. So we'll have to see about that. I don't know.
Talked about this a lot. The core 6 battleground states, every single one of these states was won by Joe Biden in 2020. 5 of them, Biden had flipped from Donald Trump in 2016. So obviously Harris, if she is the Democratic nominee, doesn't have to win all.
Kamala Harris is not going to win 6 battleground swing states. It's not going to happen. She is not going to win all 6 of those. I'd be very surprised if she won 2 of them. She's not a popular candidate. Like I said, in the primaries, when she was debating against Joe Biden back in 2020, she got less than 1% of the primary vote. Less than 1. She's not popular. People do not like her. And I honestly, my opinion, I don't think that they're going to put her in on the ticket. That's just me, though. Like, again, I don't know for sure.
All of these states, but these are the states where I referenced that polling that was showing Biden down in many cases, mid-single digits, sometimes even worse. She's going to have to win a number of these states. Maybe those 3 Midwest states that could potentially hold it for Democrats. There's different combinations here. The other challenge, though, for Harris, or again, whoever the Democratic nominee is, The polling that had come out in the last couple of weeks was also suggesting, and there wasn't enough of it to be definitive at all, but it was suggesting that Democrats were starting to get into trouble outside of the core battleground states. And in particular, there's been polling from Virginia that showed a close race, a tied race in some cases, or even Donald Trump ahead by a couple points. Virginia thought to be a solidly...
Virginia, everything I've seen on Virginia shows Donald Trump ahead. Some of them were by much, some of them were by a little bit more, but everything I've seen shows Virginia going blue. Or red, I'm sorry, blue, red.
Blue state. New Hampshire, Joe Biden won New Hampshire by 7 points back in 2020. It was thought to be safely Democratic. Polling there had a very competitive race. There were rumblings about maybe the statewide vote in Maine, maybe about Minnesota, maybe even about New Mexico. So again, there wasn't a ton of polling there. There were some indications, but that's the other order of business for whoever emerges as the Democratic candidate. Can they make sure there's no trouble in those states and then solidify enough of these swing states to win the election?
Can I just ask you a technical question and just sort of setting expectations? It does seem like what's happening in Democratic politics is the consolidation around Vice President Harris is fast, overwhelming, and therefore I think likely to be pretty much complete in fairly short order. If there isn't going to be a protracted fight in the Democratic Party, and it is very clearly going to be Vice President Harris as the nominee, how soon would you expect
they don't even know for sure if it's going to be
swing state polls to start emerging that reflect that news?
So specifically when you say swing states, I think that complicates it a little bit. In terms of national polls, I would expect in the next 2 weeks or so, we'll start to get a pretty good readout nationally. I mean, because you can just imagine what's going to be happening now. The profiles of Kamala Harris, presumably, interviews, whatever the public rollout looks like here immediately. I think a real test nationally of sort of, is she getting a new look? There'll be plenty of national polls I would expect in the next couple of weeks for that. They're
going to pull the crap out of this. Mark my words. They're going to have poll after poll after poll after poll. They're going to be asking everybody and anybody because they need to know if they can put Kamala as their front runner. Because I guarantee you, like I said, they don't have a lot of time. Like I said, September is you're gonna look around and then September's going to be right there next to you. And they don't have a lot of time to fill this. If Biden was going to drop out, he should have done it a long, long time ago. Before the first debate that he had with Trump, that was a disaster. They should have done it a long time ago. And like I said, I don't know if Kamala's going to be popular enough for them to put her forth. I don't see it happening. I don't. She's just not that popular. Like I said, less than 1% of the vote when she was in the primaries in 2020. I don't see it happening. But you guys let me know. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for coming.